Oh boy, we're finally talking about Will's Rock. I've contemplated reviewing this longer than my channel's existence, having discovered it in the early 2010s when looking for more Sam-likes. I kept putting it off because, why is it 7 hours long? 8 hours in my case. Some friends convinced me this would be a good April Fool's video. I put that to mind assuming that this isn't a very good game, though after playing it, I don't necessarily think it's bad, but we'll get to that. So Will Rock is a 2003 Serious Sam knockoff developed by Saber Interactive. That's not a criticism. The gameplay style of Serious Sam was so rare outside of itself in the 2000s that this was sort of a positive thing. Will Rock was published by none other than Ubisoft and released internationally. So this is the closest association Rayman has ever had to Serious Sam, which would be entirely pointless to mention if this wasn't a Framerater video. It runs on an in-house engine known as Saber 3D, Will Rock being the first to use it. As years passed, the engine was updated and eventually used for games like Time Shift and Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary? Dang, these guys started by ripping off Serious Sam and ended up far surpassing it. On the box reads the quote, "Have guns, Will Rock." Wow, profound. It's like I'm patting him on the back or something. Good Wilford. The story, as described on the box, reads, "You are Will Rock, an archaeologist gone ballistic when a fanatic cult kills your mentor and awakens the armies of Lost Olympus. Possessed by the vengeful titan Prometheus in a freak accident, you alone have the cojones to face Zeus and his hordes of Olympian badasses. Otherwise, there will be hell to pay." This all plays out in an introductory cutscene too, which had a surprising amount of depth to it. Oh, you also have to save your girlfriend? Which kind of felt shoehorned into the script, honestly, but whatever. Getting Will Rock to work on a modern PC is not fun. By simply installing the disk, you'll run into some error, followed by more errors when trying to update it. Could not get it to work, nearly gave up. Then I remembered I burned a working copy to a CDR some years ago. There does exist a Discord community for the game, and over there they have instructions for setting up on a modern PC, which I didn't know about until I was already finished. But the link is in the description if you'd like to try this out for yourself.
I wanna rock! Twisted Sister!
I started playing the game and oh no, I'm getting dizzy. This FOV, my god. I did manage to find a fix for this. Honestly, it's a requirement. The game starts in front of a giant temple, which does a good job setting the expectation going forward. I found out later that this entrance is actually real. I'm not sure how many other locations are real in this game, but it's always cool to see that. Some birds will be your first enemies, and these are pretty difficult to target. Eventually in the game you'll find yourself having to strafe while shooting them, and that can be a challenge. It's not as bad once you get automatic weapons, but for the first little while your pistol's going to be the most effective weapon against them. Then you've got these statues shooting at Will, which, the more I played the game, these kinda got on my nerves. Seems the eyes of hostile statues will flash, informing you of their attack, but some kind of sound would have been better. It takes a while to adapt with random statues being a threat. I mean, you'd usually just ignore them. Only a handful of enemies in this game have sight sounds, most of them seemingly show up out of nowhere. There is a spawn-in sound, but that only plays if you were close by. One thing to note, I believe all the game's enemies are based on creatures of Greek mythology. They're meant to be hordes summoned by Zeus, kind of like Mental in Serious Sam. Another similarity to Serious Sam, as there will be many, would be the crosshair colors, which works identically. Healthy enemies show green, then it goes from yellow to red. Looks like Will Rock did the gun blood overlays before Serious Sam 3, though I do imagine there are earlier examples of it. I believe it only happens when the player gets wounded. There are some interesting physics shenanigans in this game, which is mentioned quite a bit on the game's box. Take for example pots and the likes of which that fall apart very nicely when you break them. Same for those statues. Early in the game you'll have some keys to collect to open doors. They're usually hidden in pots. Key collection is done sparingly throughout the game, though it's interesting being the first quest you'll go on. Kinda builds the expectation that this would be a common occurrence. Not so much, the game usually relies on switches instead. You will come across an abundance of insta-death obstacles though. My suggestion would be to quick save often. Every time I open a door in this game, without fail, I'm reminded of "Don't be racist, I am a building." You'll be finding gold treasures throughout the game, usually from finding secret areas. You'll collect them to use at power-up stands that you'll occasionally run into. There are 3 possible powers, and you can have all 3 at your disposal at once. They're activated with I, O, or P on the keyboard. I believe one is invulnerability, the other slows down time, and the last improves your damage output. They all last for roughly 30 seconds.
Come on, you horny bastards.
Alright. That's a strange one-liner. Much of the game's corridor areas look samey with an abundance of random doors. It can make navigation confusing. I mean, I've seen much worse examples, but this isn't great. Some levels have asinine solutions, which does not help, such as finding a very specific random hole in the floor, which is never hinted at from what I could tell. This wasn't the first time the game did something like this, and it's far from the last. There's one section in the 3rd level where I had to shoot a bunch of Bengal tigers. It always feels wrong to deliberately shoot endangered animals, even in fictional media, but maybe that's just me. Will Rock, on the other hand, has the gall to follow this up by saying,
That's a lot of pussy.
Wilford Rockwell is a strange man. It just wouldn't be a Serious Sam knockoff without a kamikaze enemy. These often pop up out of nowhere, frequently right in front of the player. You can't stun them. You can be doomed from the moment they spawn in. They don't do a whole lot of damage, though.
So which one of your parents was the horse?
This is the only good one-liner in the game, by the way. On the first level, and every other level in the game, you'll encounter minotaurs. They're one of the most frequent and one of the most annoying, splitting in 2 after you kill them. I wouldn't mind personally, but it takes a moment for them to form, which ends up being a nuisance. Once you get the acid gun, you can cause enemies to swell up and explode, which on the Minotaur causes their offspring to die in the process. There are 2 other weapons with a similar effect, but this one I never seemed to run out of ammo for, so it ended up being the weapon of choice against them. The more I played this game, the more I appreciated its grandiose approach to level design. It definitely rivals Serious Sam in that aspect. Considering the game's age, it manages to impress on a technical level too. In some cases, it seemed like I was staring into a realistic painting, only to walk around in shock realizing these are fully traversable 3D environments. This never comes off the same in a video as it would by actually playing, but hopefully these visuals give a rough idea of it. When scaling these large environments, you might feel intimidated by their height. However, the player hardly takes any fall damage in this game, even from the greatest of heights. You really don't have to worry, at all. Beautiful as this game may be, the level design is usually quite basic. You only need to see a minute of gameplay to know exactly what's going on here. It's not a batshit off-the-wall crazy experience like Painkiller per se, but it does get close on occasion. Huh, I didn't even know there was full body awareness in this game until I used the bouncy pad. I really wonder why more games don't do this, it's so cool and immersive. It also took me some time to notice that Will sorta hops backwards after he takes a hit. I thought it was just me, but no, that really happens. The screen position then shifts slightly, and I really dislike this. You're already trying to dodge enemy fire, then this happens and you get disoriented. A nightmare in narrow paths. I enjoyed this sequence where you're attacking a bunch of Cyclops from a cave, where you then enter to find the remains of its food all over the place. They've been snacking here for some time, it seems. The game doesn't have many world-building moments like this, so when they happen, you appreciate it. This minigun is awesome. It absolutely shreds through the resistance. It's sad that you can't keep it spinning. You'll also restart its cycle every time you press the fire button. A little weird, but considering how powerful it is, maybe that was done to balance it.
Time to kill me some baby mutants.
Why is that a one-liner? Who would actually vocalize this?
The horse is your key to the temple.
Hearing this as I'm shooting enemies that sound like horses, I figured I'd have to lure it to break open the drawbridge or something. No, it's this big wooden structure here.
This is a big horse.
You can enter one of its legs from behind, which is extremely hard to see. Instead of your horse is the key, maybe say enter the leg of the wooden horse? I got really frustrated by the end of the game with how cryptic it is in explaining what you're supposed to do. In the wooden horse you push out a bridge to jump over a gap, but it doesn't reach far enough. God, please don't make me go into this horse again. It's so cramped and uncomfortable to navigate, not to mention dark. Turns out you have to jump off the back to another structure to essentially push the horse closer so you can jump across. I like the idea, the execution sucks. There are 0 lights inside that horse. It all looks the same in there and just gave me a headache. I can't imagine playing this part with the original FOV. What the hell is this wildly unfitting music? Slap bass? I didn't know what to do here. Will Rock really suffers when it throws you into a place with like 15 doors and only one of them gets you somewhere. An unfortunately common occurrence. I had to look up a walkthrough and there's this very obscured switch on a wall. No lighting to show the way, nothing. Good luck, asshole, find our camouflage switches. What follows in this level are some foolish design choices. You have to basically scale a giant tower by observing the opposite side through gates to determine which doors you need to find the access point to. I couldn't observe any other way to do this. As I really don't know where I'm going, hypothetically there could be a random switch in one of these rooms I need to press. There wasn't, but how would I know that? I'm gonna have to explore them all regardless.
I'm gonna make you shit your diapers.
Who the fuck starts a conversation like that? I just sat down.
Towards the end of this level, there's an area where you have to play the floor is lava by jumping across a bunch of columns. It's a nice set piece. Beyond that, I'll say that the skybox in this level's pretty cool, but otherwise it can go straight to hell. I don't care for how long these levels are. The majority take 40 minutes, with a few reaching the hour mark. Oftentimes you'll be thinking, surely the level ends after this segment, right? Then you'll be playing for another 20 minutes or longer. Levels themselves are split into subsections that have their own individual loading screens. And why couldn't these be separate levels on their own? I had a hard time allocating time to sit down and record these levels. You can just autosave and return to any point in the game, but I much prefer experiencing levels in a single sitting. As I continued through the game, I noticed that the starter weapons never seemed to become any less useful. I like that. Probably spent most of the game using this shotgun, which behaves more like a rifle, honestly. It does fire like a shotgun, but the range is insane. Towards the end of level 8, there's a part with a bunch of hexagonal stones that function like a hydraulic press. They seem to resemble that ancient Mouth of Truth thing in Rome. You'll have to walk across this area numerous times, and it's so like Will Rock at this point to do something cool and then make it last for far too long. Alright, now I have the entire game's arsenal. Very cool how most of these weapons take enemies down in unique ways, like a flaming crossbow that burns their body to skinny corpses before crumbling, or the acid gun we mentioned earlier that expands them. There's also the Medusa gun that turns them into stone, though I did spend the game thinking it was liquid nitrogen. And the atomic gun that causes them to melt, much like that guy in Terminator 2. This all helps to make the combat feel more authentic than other games of its sort.
Guns don't kill babies, I do.
Can we run a check on this guy's flight history? Close enough. Welcome to the pool rooms. I guess I could make a joke about that. Oh yeah, power-ups. I forgot about these for the majority of the game. And from comments online, it seems like that was the case for most. Though they do come in handy for boss fights. Maybe on the highest difficulty they'd be useful, but otherwise it's more of a gimmick. The final level has a few returning boss fights. Medusa was quite a challenge on level 7, now it's back and, well, good time for a power-up, I guess. Activated invulnerability and spammed my grenades at it. Oh, did I not mention the grenades? Yeah, they're kinda forgettable. Do plenty of damage, though. So then we have our final boss, the god Zeus himself. Sucks how there's no exclusive music for this. Zeus is pretty tough, rightfully so, with a massive amount of health and some attacks that I'm really not sure how to dodge. You don't get much health here either. It's hard.
Vengeance is mine.
That is until I discovered you can just stand beneath him and shoot his gonads. The enemies will then stop spawning for some reason, and his attacks won't be able to reach you. Alternatively, you could just do this. Once you beat Zeus, he just disappears, much like the other bosses in this game. You mean to tell me they could get every possible statue type to shatter perfectly, but you can't have a proper boss death? So after all this, Prometheus is freed and you've saved the day. Hooray! You know, we were all taught about the 12 Greek Olympians being fictional, right? You'll find people saying the same about virtually every religion. So with that in mind, I was curious, does anyone still worship them today? As it turns out, while this faith had all but completely vanished long ago, it's had a resurgence since, no, guess, maybe the 1800s? Earlier than that? Nope, the 1990s, and taking off ever since. Man, it is hard to keep up with all these reboots. I jest. So it's referred to as the religion Hellenism, which I can't say I understand, but it sure is fascinating. As of 2009, the first modern temple was completed, and there have since been more showing up. But that's enough history for today. The story ends with Will waking up in Chicago. It's got the was it all a dream trope, the waking up with a naked lady trope, and the smile at camera happy ending trope. The ending's just a bunch of tropes. That's disappointing. The game's introduction was quite thorough. What the heck happened here? Beyond the story mode, Will Rock also has multiplayer. Allegedly, there are 6 modes for up to 8 concurrent players, and full cooperative support. That Discord server that I mentioned earlier happens to be an active community that still plays. It's probably the best place to be if you care to be involved with Will Rock in the present day. There's a trailer for the game out there which shows a few differences in weapon models, most notably a revolver instead of the pistol. Otherwise, though, seems fairly typical for a game's development cycle. For years, I thought Will Rock was just some dumb Serious Sam knockoff, but after giving it a full playthrough, no, there was definitely some kind of original vision here. The problem is that it lacks a bit of polish. Exploration isn't always clear, certain fights go on for way too long, and frankly, 8 hours is a bit much for this kind of thing. I believe you could cut a third of these levels out, and in doing so, improve the overall experience. That or maybe trim them down a bit, rework the pacing in certain areas. Then you would have a fairly competent early 2000s shooter. As released though, is Will Rock deserving of a recommendation? I don't know. You could give it a try, I guess, see how you feel after a few levels. It takes a long time to get to the best of it, and I feel most gamers would probably give up before they reach that point. A modern remaster could be neat with these things considered, but it would probably take a lot of work for new developers to go back and restructure it all, at least without Saber Interactive's help. They are still around, I suppose it's possible, but would it be worth it for this niche of a game? Probably not. I guess stranger things have happened though. I've seen screenshots of a community trying to rebuild the game in Serious Engine, which is a bizarre but interesting idea. There are also some guys trying to reverse engineer it. Yeah, this is all pretty surprising, isn't it? For a game this niche, I certainly wasn't expecting it. Will Rock, Nitro Family, Dream Killer, these all sit in the same spot for me. A trinity of average 2000s era Serious Sam likes. Each one of them holds a special place in my heart. Okay, maybe not Nitro Family. I don't see myself ever playing that again. Will Rock, on the other hand, I think it's possible. I like the weapons, the environments are great, and the Greek mythology spin isn't something you see very often. It's the overall design of its levels that keep me hesitant. So what did you think? Is Will Rock worth playing? Have you played it? Let me know what you think. I'm curious to hear the reception of this one. But that's all you're going to hear from me this time, so thanks for watching everyone, and I'll catch you all in the next video.